facts and tidbits in part 2 of our 50th episode.
Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project. For years, I have provided security and transportation for some of the biggest names in the music industry.
I'm John. I've been a musician for over 20 years, playing everything from metal and punk to bluegrass and country.
We're bringing you a podcast about some of the weirdest myths and legends that the music industry has to offer. This is Tall Tales in Music Mythology. Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming back and listening to us on our grand edition of the 50th episode, part 2. And Jonathan's along with us, and we're going to be just going ahead and jumping on into it. We already did all the good news and all that stuff last time, so go ahead and start us off, brother, on the part 2.
Okay, yeah. Well, so as I talked last time, a couple of different things about guitars, so I'm going to start into one of those this time too. The Fender Stratocaster originally came with a 3-way switch, which selected only either the neck, middle, or bridge pickups one at a time. Guitarists such as Mark Knopfler of the Dire Straits began jamming shims into the switch's groove to lock to an in-between setting, which engaged either the neck and middle pickups or the bridge and middle pickups together. Fender listened to the players and eventually installed 5-way switches, which any modern Strat player is familiar with, in 1977.
Huh.
Yeah.
You know, I just saw something today. It was, I think it was one of those things that old people watch, like, hey, remember the 80s or remember the 70s or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how big a deal. Oh, I know what it was. It was like 101 things that greatest technology innovations, blah blah blah, you know, and I had like the computer and the internet and the coffee maker or whatever, you know, but one of the things they were talking about was the electric guitar. I think it was like 86 or something like that, and they were saying that you know, guitars have been around for a minute, but it took like Les Paul to make, you know, all the stuff that he did. And are you familiar with the Log?
The one that Les Paul made?
Yeah. Okay, I'd never even heard. I can't believe I love Les Paul, and I can't believe I've never even heard of that. But they showed a picture of the Log, which is I guess it was the first one that he had physically made with his hands.
Right.
And I mean, that damn thing was just ugly.
It's as basic as hell. I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than that.
Yeah. And anyway, they showed a picture of that, and then they showed a picture of him when he was like, I guess like in his 70s or something like that, and they brought it out, and they wanted to take a picture with it, you know, on his lap and all that kind of stuff. And holy cow, that goddamn thing is ugly. But yeah, I thought that was kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's see, I guess the one I have next was the Irish band U2 aren't really all Irish.
Really?
You know, they're really proud of the fact that they're from was it Dublin?
Yeah.
And you know, all the stuff they say about Dublin, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't been there, but you know, watching the news, reading things, talking to people that's been there and from there, you know, they really had, you know, some tough time. Like, you had to be a genuine badass to be living there, you know, because they had issues with you know, rioting and striking and things like that, you know,
troubles and shit.
Yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but you know, U2's really proud of being from there, and I use, you know, finger quotes saying that. But Adam Clayton was born in Oxfordshire, England, to English parents, and David Evans, or the Edge, was born in Barking, East London, to Welsh parents.
Huh?
Yeah.
Really?
I thought that was kind of unusual, and I don't remember exactly how I tripped up on this information, but this was definitely not what I was looking for. But then whenever I read it, I was like, oh, I'm writing that shit down.
Right. That's funny.
So go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Queens of the Stone Age bassist Michael Schumann, referred to by many fans as Mikey Shoes, actually started his career in acting. He played a boy at the bar mitzvah that Adam Sandler's character performs at in The Wedding Singer.
Shut your face. Is that right?
Yep.
I think two things. First of all, I didn't know that movie was that old, and I didn't know that band was that new, because I didn't think that movie. I didn't know it was that long ago.
Well, two things. So that movie I think came out about 20 years ago, which is actually around the time that Queens of the Stone Age started too. But this is a bassist that only joined the band within the last like 5 years or so. So he's not the original bassist. Yeah.
Right now. So, local boy Pharrell Williams from the Neptunes is a huge fan of science fiction series Star Trek. He one of the ways you could tell is he drops little hints every once in a while, like his use of the Vulcan salute whenever on his label name.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me. And his label also is named Star Trek, TRAK.
Yeah.
I didn't. I think I knew the label name. I've heard the label name, and I've seen him do the Vulcan salute thing, but I didn't know that was part of the label logo, I guess. But every Neptune's written track on Justin Timberlake's debut album, Justified, with the exception of "Like I Love You," was actually written for Michael Jackson.
I feel like we've talked about that at some point. I think you've like mentioned that in passing at one point, maybe. I don't know.
It might have been it. But a very young Pharrell wrote a verse in the 1992 single, and alongside future Neptune Chad Hugo, which I believe is from Portsmouth, if I remember right, but he's living out in L.A. right now. The pair have since done other production duties on various Teddy Riley projects, which Teddy Riley is a huge name in Virginia Beach Locals Music Society. I'm not entirely sure that he's from here. I think if I remember right, I think he's actually from Brooklyn, but he was pretty much raised up, like started his music life here.
Gotcha.
And I have driven this. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've been around Teddy, but I can't believe I've never asked him, like, okay, you're not from here. Why are you from here? You say that you're from here, or everybody else says you're from here. So anyway, go ahead with your next one.
Dolly Parton once lost a Dolly Parton look-alike contest.
I've heard that. Yep. She told that story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's. I've seen that several places before, but I just thought that was a fun, quick little one there. Not much to it other than that. I mean, she joined a look-alike contest and she lost.
Right. There was a. God, I wish I could remember who it was. First of all, Dolly is the bomb. Yeah. Anybody that knows her, we kind of have a friend of the show that was her band leader, and he's retired now, but he's ridiculously talented, and has been on every Alan Jackson album. Has played for Dolly for I think something like 27 years or 30 years or something like that. Jeez, yeah. But anyway, that's one of the stories that she tells. But everything you ever hear about her, or at least everything that I've ever heard about her from people, well, after meeting her and after being around people in her inner circle, she really is the real deal. I mean, she is just, you'll never see that woman outside of makeup. That's just not going to happen. If you do, she's dead. You found her on the side of the road. But there was a band somewhere, I want to say they were from just north of Nashville, but it was like a rap or a hip hop band or something like that. And they won, I believe it was last year's Grammy for something. And she had sent a personal message to them saying, hey, and I think they were in the running for best album or something like that. They were in the same category for something. Yeah. And they had won, and she had sent them a message, and it was something like, hey, congratulations, this is a big part of your career, and take it all in, and take a second to stop and look around and see who's around you and enjoy it, and this is a really big part of your career. This is your first one, and even though I didn't win it, I'm glad that it stayed here in Tennessee.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but man, I can't remember. I think it was it 3-6 Mafia? Was that who it was?
You know, you might be on it.
But
I thought it was so cool that somebody that is so Caucasian, really went out of her way. And I don't mean that in an ethnic way. I mean that in a, you think of white folks, Dolly Parton's in the top 10 probably. That had really went out of her way to really welcome them and congratulate, like genuinely, that's just such a class act, that really is.
Oh yeah, it was 3-6 Mafia. Yeah, I found it. It was.
Oh, okay.
It was them. Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
And I never heard them. I mean, of course, I in all honesty, I don't follow them, so maybe they did, but I don't remember hearing anything about them saying, "Wow, Dolly did this. That was really cool."
No. They did. Like, there's a specific quote from one of the members saying, like, "Yeah, Dolly Parton wrote to us afterwards, and that was really cool."
Yeah, that's class. See,
yeah.
Now, whenever we're doing our stuff with smarts, I was just having this conversation with the Jen today that, sometimes, like, it's getting to the point now where I kind of don't like talking about it outside of people that need to know, because there's people that they and I know they mean it in a complimentary way or whatever. Maybe they're just bullshitting, some of them, but they'll say stuff like, well, I'm glad I got a chance to meet you before you got famous, or, remember me whenever you make that million or whatever, which anybody that knows us knows that we're not going to get, dripping rich from this thing. The vast majority of money it's going to be going to schools. We're not making a lot of money off of this, but, it's kind of complimentary in a way, but, if we were fortunate enough to ever have that happen to us, to have that kind of success happen to us, I follow people like, Bruce Watson and Dolly Parton and Gene Watson and, people like that if you sat next to them on a Greyhound bus, you wouldn't even know who the hell Dolly, that's a different story, but for a couple of obvious reasons, but the rest of them, like Gene Watson, you would not know who that brother is if you sat next to him on a Greyhound bus, and other people, Larry Gatlin and, guys like that. They're just normal folks, and Georgette Jones, sitting next to her, you wouldn't even know,
Right.
So it's kind of nice to follow along, those lessons that they teach. Yeah. So funk-based legend Bootsy Collins famously appears in the video for D-Light's dance anthem "Groove Is in the Heart," but only contributed vocals. And this one shocked me. The bass line is actually sampled from Herbie Hancock's "Bringing Down the Birds."
Oh, really? I didn't know that part.
First of all, I've never heard that song from Herbie Hancock, and I love Herbie Hancock, but then I started to do a little self-reflection, like, okay, do you really like Herbie Hancock, or do you really just like Rocket? And I think I was like, I really like Herbie Hancock because of Rocket, so then I started going back, and I listened to that song, and that is crazy, man. That is the bass line. It's not like, oh, I'll play this bass line, it's going to sound, no, it's ripped. I believe it's sampled.
Probably it was, yeah.
Yeah, you got to listen to it, but it's "Bring Down the Birds" by Herbie Hancock. "Bring Down the Birds." Okay. But that is it. Whenever you hear it, you'd be like, "Those mother."
I'll check that out. I'll have to check that out.
It takes all the respect you had for them away.
Well, I don't know as if I had much respect for them to begin with. But no, I'm just
I see what you did there.
That's a catchy
Bootsy's
song.
a badass.
Oh yeah, no, Bootsy's amazing. I would never say word one against Bootsy Collins, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
which, by the way, just a little note to self: if we're ever going to work with George Clinton, we're going to have to work fast. That brother's on retirement tour right now.
Oh yeah. And he did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit a couple months ago. And he
Shut up! Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was talking about that on there.
All right, so go ahead with yours, man.
All right, man. So the topic of many satanic conspiracies throughout the 70s and 80s, many artists have used backmasking to mock the panic surrounding it. Some notable examples are Weird Al, who included a message saying, "Wow, you must have an awful lot of free time on your hands," in his song "I Remember Larry." Sage, one of my favorite rappers, Sage Francis, had an oddly positive yet still somewhat mocking phrase backmasked in his song Sun vs. Moon. And OG Christian rockers Petra put a backward snippet at the beginning of their song Judas Kiss, which said, "You're all looking for the devil when you ought to be looking for the Lord," also seemingly criticizing participants in the Satanic Panic who were too eager to claim all rock music was inherently evil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, in all honesty, the only thing I have against Al Gore is his wife, because she was the one that I don't know if she started all that, but she spearheaded all that.
Yeah.
With all the Satanic Panic stuff, going to Congress and getting Dee Snider and his big nose in there.
Right.
So David Gilmour recorded the last two Pink Floyd albums on his Surrey, UK houseboat studio called the Astoria. The boat can accommodate a 90-piece orchestra on the top deck and was built by Fred Carno, the inventor of the custard pie and the face gag and manager of Charlie Chaplin.
What? All of that is just mind-blowing. I didn't know any of that. That's
the
insane.
level of randomness that was just pulled out for that fact really kind of numbed my mind just a tad. Man. It's like if somebody took Novocaine and just massaged it into my brain.
Dude, that is crazy. I've never a 90-piece orchestra on a boat. That's insane.
Out of all that shit I just said, and that's the part that makes you crazy. That's kind of disturbing, bro.
I mean, like a 90-piece orchestra on a boat that one dude owns. It's like a Carnival cruise ship or something like that.
Right.
Like that's what really gets me. Is like, oh, what? Holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah,
but that's funny. Okay. So my next one, Local H was a fixture of the mid-90s grunge and alternative scene. Surprisingly, the force behind genre stalwarts such as Bound for the Floor and the family-friendly named High Five and Motherfucker was only a duo. After their lead guitarist and bassist left in 91 and 93, respectively, singer-guitarist Scott Lucas and drummer Joe Daniels continued on without replacing them. Scott had a friend modify his guitar to include a bass pickup with its own separate output so he could play through both sets of pickups simultaneously while performing live, and he's done this to several other guitars since then.
That's... I struggle to say this, but I can't believe I just understood all that tech stuff you just said.
It's a pretty cool thing to see. But
I think something's happened to me physically that I'm actually understanding the shit coming out of your face.
Hey,
now.
there we go. See, I'm teaching you stuff, man. Yeah.
Or I'm slowly but surely dropping into a sanity. One or another. Lemmy of Motorhead's first band were called the Rockin' Vickers. They were the first British band to play behind the Iron Curtain when they visited Yugoslavia in 1965. Now, I'll tell you that whenever I read that, I thought, oh, well, that's really cool. However, I don't know how many acts that I've ever read about that said that they were the first ones that played behind the Iron Curtain.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Huh.
Because you remember Billy Joel?
Yeah.
That tour, Kiss, they said it. There was another one. Well, all of these names have said, we were the first. However, I will say that after checking this out and everything that I just read about the Rockin' Vickers, that all that's verified, that's documented history. But it did happen in 1965, and everybody else that I've heard say it after that has been after that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'd say there's a strong
case.
I want to say that one.
I want to say that Billy Joel, that was probably like in the late 80s, early 90s, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that would have been way after that.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. Freaking Lemmy, man. Who would win in a fight between Lemmy and God? Trick question. Lemmy is
Trick
God.
question.
That's funny.
Go ahead.
All right. So I've talked previously about Dick Dale's involvement in increasing the power of American-made guitar amps, but the Beatles were responsible for the same thing with British amp manufacturers. Vox beefed up their best-selling AC30 model from the 30 watts of its namesake to both 50 and 100 watt versions, the AC50 and AC100, respectively, in the mid-60s. This was done to drown out the throngs of screaming girls who were overpowering their amps in their sold-out stadium shows. And it's worth noting that this was before PA systems were made the way they are now, which I also talked about a little bit in our episode about the Grateful Dead and their wall of sound, I think was what they called it, if I remember correctly. So back then, I mean, you didn't have, giant PAs that were just there at a stadium, you know what I'm saying? So the guitarists did have to rely strictly on their backline, their amplifiers, to produce all the sound and try to spread it out throughout the venue. So yeah, the Beatles were responsible for the increasing power of British amps, and actually my main amp is a Vox AC50 as well. So it's a modified version. It's completely different than what the Beatles were using, but based off of a similar circuit though. So
I'll be darned.
yes, sir.
Well, it's time for Taylor Swift to take a bow because she has just accomplished the unthinkable. Taylor Swift hit #1 on the Canadian iTunes chart with 8 seconds of pure static. The Canadian version of iTunes. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I remember that.
The Canadian version of iTunes released a track called Track 3 that looked like it could be the new track from her upcoming album 1989, but was actually just white noise. Nevertheless, the song soared to the top, beating out other songs that were actually music, including Shake It Off, Welcome to New York, and Out of the Woods. Perez Hilton even posted a screenshot of Track 3 atop the iTunes sales chart. The release of the audio file was reportedly the result of an iTunes glitch, but that didn't stop eager fans from shelling out $1.29 to download the song. Some of them reached out to the pop star herself asking for answers after listening to it. Quote, "You can make your own conclusions about the quality of Canadian hearing and or the supreme charting power of Taylor Swift," unquote, writes BuzzFeed on the incident. Just kidding, Canada. We know you sent Track 3 to #1 because it would just be too impolite not to do it.
Sorry.
So, sorry. It's a nice day on the lake, though, don't you know?
Posers. My next one.
Which, hang on, the little follow-up I wanted to add to that was, Taylor Swift's camp had said, yeah, that was a mistake. We apologize for that. iTunes had said, yeah, that was a glitch in our system, blah, 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 blah. The millions of dollars that was made on that $1.29 download,
that's crazy.
Nobody got a refund on.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, now, okay, so I have never bought music through iTunes. I've only ever used iTunes for like ripping CDs and then uploading them to my old school iPod Classic that I had back in the day, okay?
Right.
Doesn't it give you at least like the length of the song or the ability to preview it before you buy it? I mean, you can preview those songs, am I right?
Well, yeah, but let's backpedal just a tad and think about Americans. Yeah. We're the only country I've ever seen that has warning labels on hair dryers that says, "Please don't use this in the bathtub." We actually have to-go coffee cups that say, "Be careful, liquid is hot."
Right.
So, I'm not going to say that we're the most diligent of readers. Not a lot of folks do a lot of research in the United States before purchasing things. How many times have you heard stories about people buying stuff through Amazon and then they get mad because they're paying, like, they bought a whole bedroom suit for $13 and then they're so mad whenever it shows up and, it's for a dollhouse. So I can't help but that falls under that category.
You said one of my biggest pet peeves, bedroom suit. That's like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Really? Why?
Because it's supposed to be bedroom suite. It's SUITE. So
Oh.
sorry. It's just a knee jerk. Me being
No. Oh
pedantic
God, no. I'm glad
again.
you told me.
No, it's
See,
just me
now
being
I'm
pedantic.
No. Don't throw your $2 words at me. No. Now I can change it because I know. See,
There you go.
That's
You
why I
didn't know,
have
yeah.
friends that point shit out like this to me, So, anyway, go ahead with your next one.
All right, man. Pantera started life as a glam rock band back in 1982, opening for acts such as Stryper, Dokken, and Quiet Riot. Dimebag Darrell back then was actually known as Diamond Darrell.
That's actually how I remember him because there's been a few times. Yeah, there's been a few times that we've talked about. Well, you've talked about Pantera. I don't really know enough to talk about him, nor have I ever researched anything about him. But whenever we talk about Christian rock, a lot of times I'll bring up Stryper and you'll bring up Pantera. And
Pantera. You're thinking of Petra. You're thinking of Petra.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Pantera was not a Christian band, that's for sure.
So who are the one that you brought up? Petra?
Petra, yeah. Petra's a Christian band.
Oh, okay,
The one I was talking about right here is Pantera, because Pantera started
never
as
mind.
a glam rock band.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking of. I take all that shit back.
No, you're good, man. No worries. Yeah, because I understand, especially since I mentioned Stryper there, and Stryper and Petra are both, bastions of Christian rock. So
yeah, but even going back on what you were saying, even if you look at some of the really respected metal bands, look at the haircuts that Metallica used to have. Some of the hardcore guys like Ozzy, look at the big ass hair he had back in the day.
Yeah,
that's funny. I think glam rock. I don't love it as much as you do, obviously, but but I tell you what, my friend Trish down in Florida, that we will talk about glam rock and hair rock and all that. We will talk about that until we're asleep because we just both love it so much. It was good times, man.
Now I can appreciate like 70s glam rock, like T-Rex and Slade and Sweet and New York Dolls and stuff like that. It's more like the hair metal of the 80s is what I just can't stand, like Poison and oh Jesus, why am I Motley Crue, stuff like that. I can't stand that. But glam rock from the 70s, because even Bowie, he went through kind of that glam rock phase too there, along with all those other bands I mentioned. And this is like Ziggy Stardust phase there. So,
but this is a man that will also watch a video of what's that parody band that I like? Steel Panther. That we can both sit down and watch that and go, yeah, that was good. but I mean, they do that shit on purpose. That's not like like the other guys kind of came out. These guys are like a parody band, but they're ridiculous.
Well, it's like the Darkness. I love the Darkness, and I hate hair metal, but I love the Darkness. So,
I've never even heard of them.
Yeah, you have the I Believe in a Thing Called Love guys.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I'll be down.
Yep.
So, Ryan Gosling could have been a member of the Backstreet Boys, but he turned them down. And the world will never forgive him for it. Ryan Gosling has gone on to achieve success in Hollywood films such as The Notebook and Drive. Lived next door to A.J. McClain when they were both teenagers. A.J. McClain revealed that he asked Ryan to be in the band, but had his offer turned down. However, Ryan subsequently returned to his neighbor and asked to be a part of the group, only for AJ to forget to return his call. And I don't know if the word forget should be forget or finger quotes forget to call him back.
Right.
Addressing the actor in an interview, McClain said, quote, "Ryan, I am sorry that I didn't call you back. If we ever want a six Backstreet Boy member, I'm going to call you. You can sing," unquote. He added, "He can sing his ass off. He's not only a great actor and a handsome man."
I am quite glad that he did not do that and instead went the acting route.
I don't know if that would have, I don't know if that's one of those things that he kind of sits back and he goes, I wonder what if.
Yeah. I sure hope he doesn't, because that would definitely be below him. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that dude's a great actor. Like I did not want to like Ryan Gosling for a long time, strictly because of The Notebook. Like strictly because of that. But that dude is a great actor. Like holy shit. Like he takes on some crazy, like intense roles. So
he's good
for the Gauze there.
Right.
All right. So Tool's sprawling 9-minute title track to their 2001 album Lateralis is oddly mathematical and contributed to a theme that spanned the entire album and even the track listing. The song's chorus consists of 3 meters, each in a different time signature. First 9/8, then 8/8, and then 7/8. At one point, the song's working title was even 987. When they realized that 987 was the 16th number in the Fibonacci sequence, they began basing several other aspects of the album around that. And even the syllables of singer Maynard James Keenan's verse lyrics are a Fibonacci sequence, in that they go 1 syllable, 2, 3, 5, 8, 5, 3. And the songs Parable and Parabola, which build together to form another nearly 10-minute song, mentions spirals, and a suggested reordering of the tracks makes for smoother transitions from song to song.
You know, it's funny that you bring this up because a very good friend of the podcast, my buddy Rod T. Me and him have we've talked about things like sacred geometry,
right.
Things like that. And years ago, and I mean years ago, he told me about the band Tool.
Oh, yep. I know he and I have talked about it too.
Yeah, and of course at the time they were new. I was younger, but I still didn't understand, any of the real new music coming out. I was still locked in my own little time frame, and so he was telling me about this, and I was like, And I really couldn't, I've heard the stories about Beethoven taking the measurements of cathedrals and turning that into music and things like that. But outside of that, I've never heard of anybody doing that. Mm-hmm. So I started listening to a couple of the songs, and I was like, these are ones that he suggested. So I was like, well, okay, yeah, maybe, it's not really a genre I would listen to, but I get it, And so then he's showing me album covers and different things like that. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, guys are more visual than anything else. And I was like, oh, that really is it. Wow. Okay. So I've always had that in the back of my mind as I respect them for that. Mm-hmm. And it's not really in like a BS kind of way. It's like he's, like it's gimmicky, like in your face. Oh, look, throwing the Fibonacci sequence in your face or whatever, Right. So, I genuinely respect them for that. It's just not a genre that I listen to that much. Kind of gives me one of them headaches.
Totally understand, and it's one of those things where I feel like to get into Tool, you have to get into them at the right age, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, and that's what happened with me. Like it was, early on in high school is when I really got into them. So. I don't really listen to them now. They're probably going to put out a new album this year, and I'm like, okay, cool. If it happens, it happens. I don't care. I'll probably listen to it, but I'm not just like, oh my God, new Tool album. You know what I mean? So they have some rabid fans out there. But I think a lot of Tool fans eventually kind of grow on past that a little bit, but yeah.
Oh yeah. It'd be. I guess it's kind of like the opposite of Insane Clown Posse, But,
yeah. You're starting on the other end of the spectrum there.
Yeah, right. So Google Images was created after Jennifer Lopez wore the dress at the 2000 Grammys. It was the most popular search term on Google. The Google execs had ever seen at the time, but there wasn't an image search option, so they created Google Images.
I did not know that. Holy shit.
Oh. Well, YouTube was invented because of Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction at the Super Bowl.
That's funny.
One of the inventors of YouTube missed the original broadcast and wanted to see it, but he couldn't. Then they invented YouTube.
That's funny because I can remember YouTube starting around that time, but I didn't realize
that was why. So really, two of the greatest inventions in internet history was started because of women's boobs.
Because of boobies.
Yep.
So many things that men have done over the years just because boobs.
Yeah.
It's true.
What else you got?
All right. Another interesting tidbit about the Stratocaster, actually. The floating bridge of the Stratocaster would often make the guitar go out of tune whenever strings, particularly the G and B strings, were bent forcefully. The bridge would actually pull up as the string was bent. When the string was relaxed, the bridge would fall further back than its original position. This would put extra tension on the strings, rubbing them harder against the saddles and potentially breaking them, or at least pulling the tuners with enough force to yank the string out of tune. Players such as Eric Clapton began using blocks of wood to make sure the bridge never went past the starting point, and now modern-day Stratocaster bridges can be set up as either floating or flush with the body.
I'll be damned.
Very interesting stuff there.
NWA Straight Outta Compton was an opus to violence, but when it came out Eazy-E was the only member of the group who had a criminal record. Hang on, I'm gonna start that over again.
Okay.
Starting right now. NWA Straight Outta Compton was an opus to violence, but when it came out that Eazy-E was the only member of the group that had a criminal record, people kind of, I guess was looking at it kind of weird, like, really, all y'all badasses, but he's the only one that's got a record? Okay.
Right.
So, thanks to a cameo on Soul Train, Curtis Blow was the first rapper on national TV.
Huh.
All these, I just have like a couple more, but all these are rap related ones. Ice-T was the original rapper of 99 Problems, but his 1993 album Home Invasions, Jay-Z made it famous. I did not know that.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
God, see, the man, it seems like that's like a topic of us that we're talking about, like the past 5 episodes or something. There's like some song that comes up and come to find out that that's actually a cover.
Right.
It blows my mind. Questlove owns about 2,000 hair picks.
I do not doubt that a bit.
The clothes Ice Cube wears in the first scene of Friday are exactly the same as the ones he wore in the final scene of Boys in the Hood.
Really? I didn't know that either.
Jay-Z recorded Hard Knock Life, Ghetto Anthem, in one take.
Another thing.
Yeah, that was fascinating. I've never met him or worked around him or anything, but that's one dude I guess I'd like to work around.
Yeah.
So in early 2009, Kanye West nearly changed his name to Martin Lewis the King Jr. Man, all you could do is shake my head. That's all you could do. Shake my head.
Can I just shake my head instead of your head?
Right. There's certain things that we can do in the United States that is absolutely different than anything you could do in any other country. One of them is you have the right to change your name. There's a certain process you have to, but there's a lot of other ones too. But there's just certain people, they should earn that right. Just gonna leave that right there. The straight up funk of Nothing But a G Thing from Dre's 1992 album The Chronic is actually sampled from Leon Haywood's record I Want to Do Something Freaky to You. Yet again, another song. You listen to that song, and that's not played. That's sampled.
Right.
It's exact same song.
Well, and
the music is.
I know around that time, rappers in general, and especially the producers behind the beats, came under a lot of fire for sampling, because it was like, well, when does it become artistic license and when is it theft? You know what I'm saying? There was a big discussion in music at that time about that.
Sure. And I think that they really ended it well, that yes, you do have artistic license. I mean, I think that's absolutely right.
Right.
However, whoever you're taking it from, they should get a taste of that cake.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, definitely need to be credited and definitely need some cut of the royalties for sure. I completely agree with that.
Absolutely. So the last one I got is Gwen Stefani has won the same amount of rap Grammys as Nas, Drake, 50 Cent, and Busta Rhymes combined.
Huh. Because the only rap song I can think of her being in was just that Eve song.
Well, I was actually going to research like all of the songs for each one of them.
Yeah.
But then they just got into, these are the songs, but this one beat out this one, and then there was like all these little tangent stories that went with it, and I was like, oh no, I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm curious.
But yeah,
curious about that because I remember when that song with her and Eve came out, because I was very torn. I was like, oh cool, because I loved No Doubt at that time. I was like, oh cool, but the singer of one of my favorite bands is getting some fame finally. And then I'm like, oh, this means No Doubt's probably gonna suck now. And sure enough, that next album came out and it was garbage, a massive dumpster fire. So, that's funny.
So what's your next one, brother?
Actually, my next one, coincidentally, is about No Doubt. Guitarist Tom Dumont had never listened to ska when the band convinced him to join them in the late 80s. He had previously only played in metal bands influenced by Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and others.
I'll be damned. Now, Tom is the one that she dated whenever they were in a band, right?
No, that's the bassist, Tony Cannell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's
lucky bastard.
Those guys are still in the band. The drummer Adrian Young, the bassist Tony, and the guitarist. There were originally two singers, Gwen and some guy named. I'm gonna kick myself. I can't remember what his name was. He died, and then her brother Eric was the keyboardist and primary songwriter. He left the band to become an animator for The Simpsons.
Shut up.
Yeah, I can't make that up. Shortly after Tragic Kingdom came out in 95, he left the band to work on The Simpsons. And then
I'll be damned.
Those four continued on without him. But yeah.
Wow.
Indeed.
Well, we're going to go ahead and shut down the part 2 of the 50th episode, and just from me personally, I cannot thank y'all enough for making this what the podcast is today, whether that be good, bad, or indifferent. We've had crazy amounts of downloads, especially coming from Australia, and we really appreciate you guys down there. And hopefully we'll be doing this again in another 50 episodes, and we'll be talking about how shitty our podcast was 50 episodes ago, and we'll be a little bit more successful with it. One thing I wanted to throw out is happy birthday to my little buddy Jojo Mornati. His family and is really good friends of the podcast, and you hear me talk about Big Joe. That's Big Joe's boy.
Oh, gotcha.
And I'm glad you're listening. I wish I could have made it out there for you cookout, because not only for you, because your daddy, Big Joe, cooks so good it makes me cry, and I can't even tell you the amount of stretch marks that man is responsible for on my ass. And a big shout out to my buddy Eric Clark. He's losing weight and getting sexy on the government dime out there while vacationing with the rest of the boys and girls stationed in an undisclosed place somewhere out in the Middle East. I love you, brother. Take care of you and your other homies, and can't wait till y'all get back, and everybody's looking forward to seeing you. And that's all I got. Go ahead, brother.
All right, guys. Well, hey, as always, if you have any myths or legends you'd like to hear us talk about on the show, you can feel free to reach out to us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Tall Tales of Music Mythology, on Twitter at T2M2 Podcast, or you can email us at T2M2podcast@gmail.com.
Right now, we're doing a lot of rebranding with the Smarts Project, so the website's going to be down for a little bit, and whenever we come back, we're going to have a new look, a new smell, and hopefully it'll be more like chocolate than before. And so all that's going to be down for a little bit, but you can catch up with us on social media, and it is Instagram, the Twitter, and the Facebook, and all that is Smarts Project. And in the meantime, you can get a hold of me at randy.russellberg@gmail.com. Now more than ever, be kind to each other. Tell your kids you love them while you got them. Whatever you do in life, and never be a myth.
Always be a legend.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, what's up?
It's Nathan.
It's Farron.
It's Don't Quit Your Daydream, a podcast with people with skills, hobbies, passions, and
Dreams.
Oh, yeah. And what kind of people is that, Farron?
We've got sound designers,
Blacksmiths,
bicyclists,
professional wrestlers,
historians,
musicians.
Anything you want to be, anything that you are, tell us about it.
Yes. And you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from.
Dig in, listen.
Simply by searching DQYD.
Podcast.
Yeah, new episodes every Tuesday.